guys, we got another new car review here. This is a 2018 Mercedes-Benz GLE 350 Fanatic. They're rebranding and renaming all their models, but this is pretty much the new version of the ML, the ML that's been around forever. And I got to say, man, I've been driving this truck for most of this morning all over New York City, the Bronx, and Queens. And I am extremely impressed with it. And if any of you guys know or have owned the ML series from back in the days, they used the torsion bar front suspension. They just drove terrible. Almost every generation of the ML Mercedes, in my opinion, drove terrible. And the last version of one of these that I drove was about 6 years ago. A good friend of mine went to the dealer, and he was deliberating between an X5 and the Mercedes. And we went for the drive, and we came back so disappointed that the sales manager and the GM at the Mercedes-Benz dealership said, "Do not buy this SUV." And I was totally shocked to hear that from people that are actually working at the dealership. But let me tell you something, man. This new one, I drove it. This is made in America. It's not made in Germany. The quality's there. It rides incredible. It's smooth. It's quiet. It doesn't shake itself apart like other Mercedes-Benz models that I've driven that are new. I am very, very impressed with it. I'm going to do a quick walk around. I'm going to show you some of the features, show you the interior, and strap the camera inside. We're going to go for a quick drive. But I got to say, for the segment that this falls into, this would compete with like an Acura MDX, the Lexus RX, and other SUVs within that $55,000 to $65,000 category. And I've driven all of those, and to be honest with you, this is a toss-up between this and an X5, and I gotta say, the X5 and this vehicle here, they're very confident on the highway when you're driving spiritedly. I mean, the BMW is gonna be a little bit more sportier because it just has, better wheel and tire package, a little bit tighter suspension dampening. But I gotta say, I mean, this thing has really good progressive steering feedback, outstanding chassis. It rides really, really well, and I tell you, I'm really impressed. That's why I'm shooting this video this morning. So let me grab the camera. We're going to do a walk around. Well, as any Mercedes-Benz model, I mean, the front of it is their signature DNA. I mean, they do an outstanding job aesthetically on almost all of their vehicles. I don't think they build an unattractive car as far as anything that they make. And like I said, this is just another version. I mean, look how nicely stylish and modern the grille is. It's very contemporary. It's got the creases in the hood, which is very reminiscent to like the C63 and some of the AMG models. They're giving it a little bit of a sportier touch. And then if you look here, I mean, it's got tons of, grills and vents and everything in the front, but they even did that when you go up on the hood. It's just like an added sporty touch. I mean, they were, that originally came out unlike, the McLaren, SLR, the SL models. I mean, it's not a bad looking SUV. It really isn't. It's got 19-inch wheels with like a, touring all-season tire. It's got the built-in running boards here. You just got to be careful getting out that you don't clock into them and fall out of the car. I wouldn't say that for men, but if your wife is short, that might be an issue. Surprisingly, this doesn't have a 4-piston or a monoblock style brake caliper in the front. I'm actually surprised that they didn't do that because they're doing that on almost all of their models. But as far as the sheer size of it, I mean, it's a big size SUV. This is not small. And here's the rear. And another thing, I don't know if this is standard, but this one has a really, really nice trailer hitch with the wiring and everything built in. I got to check the window sticker to see if that's factory or not, but that's a really good thing to have. Personally, I love that, because I like to mountain bike, and I can throw the bike racks on there, 1, 2, 3, and, it just makes life a lot easier. It's got the really nice integrated exhaust tips, just the styling of the way they do that, it's just seamless. It's not a Range Rover Sport, it's not a BMW X5M, it's not in that category, but I gotta tell you, anybody that's looking for an SUV that wants, good luxury and an outstanding ride quality. I mean, I was banging this thing around all over some of the worst roads in New York City this morning, and this thing didn't miss a beat. The steering stayed progressively straight. It didn't bounce all over the road. I think it's a good chassis, and like I said, they did away with the torsion bar suspension. This has independent suspension front and rear. It almost feels like it has an airmatic, airbag type suspension, but it doesn't. From looking at it, I crawled under the car and I saw it's just a conventional spring and shock. But I guess the dampening and the spring rates, they really made it very, very compliant. And it almost seems like they took some consideration for people that drive in the Northeast when they designed this thing, because it seems to cope outstanding for where I was driving it today. All right, guys, we're over on the interior. And like I said, this is pretty basic stuff. They're giving you like a gray bird's eye maple, veneer on the door trim and on the dash trim, which is nice. And the doors are not, this is not covered in like a Napa style leather. It almost feels like it's an MB Tex. And if you guys don't know what that is, that's like Mercedes-Benz's, synthetic leather. And to be honest with you, it feels so damn good and it's so durable that for a vehicle like this probably makes a lot of sense. Especially if you're gonna have kids, dogs, you're gonna be moving stuff in and out of it. I mean, this stuff is really, really durable. It'll last you forever if you take care of it. A lot better than Napa leather. Like if you're gonna get the Napa leather on like the 63 version of this, the AMG, then that's not gonna hold up as good. And you look at the seats, it's pretty basic. I mean, it's got a heavily grained texture material here. Like I said, I don't know if this is leather or the MB Tex. That's how good it feels. It's not a sports seat, but it's a comfort seat. They do a nice job, of course, again, on the steering wheel. And you can see the layout here. Now, this has the screen in the middle of the dash, but it's not as obtrusive as like on the C-Class or on some other cars. So this actually works, I think, aesthetically a lot better in this. It's got a really, really nice gauge cluster. Very sporty looking with the dual round gauges. And, you have the Mercedes-Benz, control center here, which I'm not really going to get into because that's just not what I'm here to talk about. And let me see. So here's our storage. Storage is adequate. I would expect a little bit more storage on something this large of a console. And then you have some storage here. You got your ashtray, you got your two-size cup holders, and you got a little bit of a storage cubby there. But overall, I mean, aesthetically, it's a very simple, well laid out interior. It's got good ergonomic. All the controls are right where you need them. It's got manual knobs for the audio, which I love. I love, just a rotary knob for AC and for audio or anything that you're going to be using a lot. So I'm really glad that Mercedes-Benz thought about that. And the seat adjustment switches are over there on the door. They have like an aluminum touch finish to them. And it's crazy because like this car, just like all the Benzes, from back in the days, as soon as you touch the seat to go forward and back, the headrest pops all the way up to the ceiling. It's totally ridiculous. I don't know why they do that, but it's just one of those Mercedes-Benz attributes that if you know the brand, you totally get it. Here's the aluminum finish start-stop button. This is pretty much the same one you're going to get in an S-Class. And it's got a double panoramic sunroof. I'm going to just move around and show you that. And I have the shades closed just because one thing I'll comment on this car, I do highly recommend if you get one of these to tint the front windows just because the sun glare is really, really bad. So when you're driving, it could be very distracting. The rear of the car is factory tinted, but I highly recommend tinting the front windows to match, and it would just make driving in the sunny conditions a lot easier. And here's the back seat. I mean, there's tons of room back here. Absolutely tons of room back here. And this is something when I picked the car up, when I picked this up yesterday, I was like, wow, these headrests are really, really distracting. How do we get those things down? And if you see here, all you got to do is hit the lever here, and as you can see, the headrest, it fully compresses. So if you leave them up, it is distracting, especially looking out the back, for the rear visibility. So I recommend leaving these down unless you have tall passengers that are going to be in the back of this thing. I mean, the cargo area, it's got pretty good room. I think when all of this is folded down, I mean, you have really, really good room as far as stacking things up in here, as far as boxes or anything large. And it's got an automatic tailgate opener, and it's really, really nicely finished. You have the Mercedes-Benz carpeting. You have another 12-volt outlet back here, which is great. You got some cargo tie downs over there. And lo and behold, you have a spare tire kit. Yeah, these are rare. But and then there's your owner's manual set up right in there with more storage. And the typical, cargo cover. Nothing really crazy. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. It is a nice truck, I gotta say. It's a really nice SUV. I'm pretty impressed with it. I think it drives outstanding. So far, the one that I'm driving has a couple of thousand miles. The build quality seems great. There's no issues. I haven't complained, and if you see any of my other videos, you know I complain about certain little things. And a lot of what I do and a lot of stuff that I talk about is all performance oriented. But, you know, considering that this is an SUV and it's not a performance variant, you know, I'm not going into it with super high expectations. It's not a sport coupe. It's not a, you know, GT type of car. So I'm actually impressed that I was able to drive it spiritedly this morning throughout New York. And it actually feels outstanding. So look, you go up here and it's got, you know, automatic close, and it goes down really, really quickly. Really, really quickly. So before we get in the car to do the test drive, I'm going to show you the window sticker. We're going to lay this out here so you guys can see this is a 2018 GLE 350 4MATIC SUV. Suggested retail price of $54,700. Optional equipment is the power tilt sliding panoramic roof for $1,000. The heated steering wheel is $250. The trailer hitch is $575. Okay, so that's an option, and I think it's well worth it, especially if it's factory. This one has the Harman Kardon Logic 7 surround sound system for $850. That's worth it as well. The brushed aluminum running boards, $650. The pre-wiring for rear seat entertainment, $170. I guess that's if you want to put TVs in the back headrest, you know, for your kids. The illuminated star, $500. That's in the front grille area. And then this one also has the premium package 2, which has the rear side window sunshades, heated and cooled front cup holders. Heated and cooled front cup holders. That's interesting. I was expecting to say heated and cooled front seats. Active LED headlamps, adaptive high beam assist, illuminated door sills, command navigation, Sirius XM traffic with 5 years of service, 115 volt AC outlet in second seat row, keyless go, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, lane keeping assist, and blind spot assist. It also has the 996 parking assist package, which is called Parking Pilot and Surround View System. The one thing that I noticed, and I got to see if I can figure out how to turn it off, is that when you get close to any other vehicle when you're driving, the steering wheel pulsates. It's one of these active safety things. You know, some cars do it where it'll vibrate your seat. This actually pulsates the steering wheel. I thought something was wrong with the thing as soon as I started driving it, but then I realized when I got out of traffic, it didn't do it anymore. I have to go through some of the menus. Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time going through this and going over some of the features, but I'm going to try to turn that off when we go for the test drive. And we're going to strap the camera in now, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. This is the start of our short test drive. And like I said, I hope you guys like some of the feedback I'm giving you on this vehicle. I definitely think this vehicle is light years ahead of its predecessors. I mean, light years as far as driving dynamics, comfort level, ride quality, build quality. And this one's made in Alabama. This one's not made in Germany. And I gotta say, it's just a comfortable, nice, luxurious type of vehicle. And I gotta say, I mean, you know, for anyone that, you know, needs a good daily driver in the Northeast, or, you know, has kids, has dogs, needs a lot of cargo space, you really should put this on your radar. I mean, this is a really, really nice SUV. I like the storage. I really like the size, the sheer size of the vehicle with the cabin. You know, I like some of the options. It's got the premium audio. And I actually prefer this material that's on the interior, whether it's MB Tex or the, you know, the cheaper type of leather. I think it's going to wear a lot better. It's going to be easier to maintain. And if anybody has kids or pets, you know, you know how trashed the vehicles are going to get. And a lot of people are going to be leasing these. So if you want a vehicle that you're going to be able to turn in 3 years, even though your kids and your family could trash it, just be rest assured that if you get this kind of material, it's going to hold up better. Any good detailer is going to get that thing back up to snuff really easily. And you're not going to have to go crazy with rips and other stuff that's going to be pretty obvious if you had a Napa grade leather. But I mean, for the sheer size of this thing, I have total confidence. And that's what I see. That's what I like in any vehicle, anything that I drive. I don't care what it is. Granted, you know, I'm all about the performance of things and the background of performance. That's my career. But sometimes you just want to get into an SUV or a compact car or just a regular car, like a regular car, and you just want to get in it and have driving confidence. You don't want to have steering that's all over the road. You don't want to have the thing drifting everywhere. You don't want to have a vehicle where you take a turn, it makes you feel nervous. And these are the very basic criteria that I judge a lot of vehicles on. And to be honest with you, for what this is, for its size, for the category, it does everything well. There's no complaints. But I got to tell you, like, I'm driving this thing this morning, and I'm going to have it for 2 more days. And the reason I requested an SUV is because I have to do some deliveries today. And, you know, sometimes if I bring a car in for service and I'll get an SUV, it just makes my life a lot easier than going out to rent one from Enterprise. And this is where we are now. You're going to see the video is going to be all blown out. The sun that comes into this cabin is crazy. So I highly suggest anyone that picks up one of these immediately get the front windows tinted. Absolutely. Even if you want to do your windshield. I know some states, they prohibit that, you know, by law. But if you can get that done, even if it's like a 70%, just something to reduce the intensity of the sun, because I'm not used to being in a vehicle, you know, that has this type of, you know, visibility and the sun coming in. And this is typical early morning New York traffic. And I got to tell you, that this vehicle is so comfortable. I love it. I really do. You know, this morning I had to do a lot of running around early. I had to do some drop-offs. And this was like the perfect go-around vehicle. This is a good daily driver. Now, I'm not sure as far as, like I said, a majority of the people in the United States are leasing these. I don't know the price that these things lease for. I don't know if they're under 600. I don't know if they're over 700. I really don't know. But, you know, that's something that whoever's cross-shopping a vehicle in this category, you know, budget, of course, is important. And, of course, Mercedes and BMW are going to be at the top of the budget. Okay, that's just no matter what vehicle in this class you're looking for. And that's just because they're catering to a luxury, you know, different audience. Now, I do feel the Lexus and Infiniti are also an outstanding value, and they're going to most likely be the cheapest to lease. But it really depends what you want. You know, you want a Mercedes, you want a Lexus. It's totally up to you. But I got to say, I drove a 2-year-old Lexus version of one of these. I think it's called the RX. And I thought it was nice. You know, somebody that works for me, he's one of my photographers for my other company. He has one, and I drove it, and I thought it was really nice. But I'm going to be honest with you, I like driving this a little bit better. This has a little bit more of a sportier feel. I think the ride quality on this is better. I think because the wheelbase might be a little bit longer. But overall, I like this vehicle so far. And another thing I want to comment too is the interior is very, very quiet. And you're probably going to hear that in the audio in this review. It's not loud, and even though it's got the V6 engine, sometimes like in the older models when you rev them out, it became very, very loud in the cabin. And this is like super, super quiet, like S-Class quiet, and that's really rare for a vehicle in this category. I mean, the Lexus, of course, is also quiet, and the Infiniti. But if you were to get into like an American version of one of these, and you hit the V6, you get all that racket coming into the cabin, and that just comes with the level of refinement that some of these vehicles have versus others. So the steering wheel just did that pulsation thing, probably because I'm swerving a little bit into the other lane while I'm talking to you guys. I went through the menu. I probably have to get the owner's manual and spend some time on how to turn that off. But rest assured, if anybody test drives this, most likely the salesman or someone at the dealership will know how to turn it off. And don't let that deter you from it. I remember when I drove a Cadillac, the new version of the CTS-V, and I was swerving lanes and it started shaking my seat. It totally freaked me out because I don't like to feel things like that while I'm driving at high speeds. So, it's just one of those things that they're putting in a lot of new cars for people that are dozing off, and, it's probably done, it is done for safety. But I mean, this thing is so, so comfortable. It really, really is. I mean, I could drive it with with 2 fingers. And it's totally straight on the road. It's not all over the road. Like the old version of, these SUVs, they were all over the road. Now I got to go back and check to see, because they have so many models right now, and theoretically I think this is a new version of an ML. Maybe this is the new version of the GL. I don't know. But to be honest with you, either way, I think it's a good SUV. I would say this is a full-size SUV. It's not a compact SUV. But I can't keep up with all these designations with all these German cars. They're just coming out with so much stuff. It is so confusing. I'm old school. I remember stuff from back in the days, and that's just what sticks with me. But I can't keep up with some of these things because I'm not in the market of working on these cars or customizing or doing anything with these cars. This is not my market. So I don't have a reason to stay on top of what's going on with this. This is just one of those things where I happen to have this vehicle, and I figured let me do a review, and I have a lot of good things to say about it, so why not share it with the world? And even though it doesn't have the monoblock style front calipers on the braking system, whatever brakes that they have on this vehicle stops surprisingly well. Now, the older version of a lot of these vehicles that they produced, whether it was the ML, the GL, I had a couple of clients that had those, and I drove them a couple of times, and I was so disappointed in the braking response. And like I said, Mercedes and BMW, they're always known to have really, really good brakes. That's just a German car attribute. All the German cars have really, really good brakes. And those vehicles never, in my opinion, had really, really good brakes. But this one does. This one has really, really good brakes. And a lot of that comes with the brake pad compound. There's a lot of engineering that goes into designing something like that for the load of the vehicle, the use of the vehicle and everything else. And brake compounds, going from one to the other could change the entire dynamic of how a vehicle reacts and its active safety capabilities. But I've been in this SUV for the greater part of 3 hours, and I have zero back pain, zero fatigue, totally comfortable. I love the audio system. The audio system is outstanding. And like I said, I don't have that in my daily driver, so I really appreciate that when I get into a car that has a good audio system. And I'm smacking into some pretty bad potholes. And this thing is totally taking it, no problem. It's not disrupting the chassis at all. And that's what I look for, in a vehicle, any vehicle. I just want to be able to drive it and not have it throw me all over the road. Because I have to take everything into consideration that where I'm driving it is a lot more challenging on the vehicle than driving it down in Florida or Arizona or somewhere where we don't have, roads like this. So it puts a lot of stress on the vehicle. And to me, when a vehicle could drive really dynamic and compliant on the garbage of New York City and perform even better on smooth roads, as you're traveling, I think that's a good vehicle. I think it's a properly designed vehicle. I feel that the engineers, took into consideration that not all of us have ideal driving conditions every day. And, you can get into some vehicles and they'll feel great for the first 5 minutes, and as soon as you start hitting really bad roads, you hate the vehicle. You want to jump out of the vehicle. And I'm talking about vehicles that are like 80,000 to 160,000. So just because it's more money doesn't mean that it was engineered for all different driving conditions. And some vehicles, really are a one-trick pony. They're only good for one thing. And I think why the SUV market is so big in the United States is because they're so versatile and there's so much of an abundance of vehicles in this category. They have the smaller versions, they have the crossovers, they have the full size. They have the Escalade ESVs, like the really large ones. That's a totally different category than something like this. But and that's probably a reason why BMW and Mercedes-Benz are producing these vehicles in the United States, is because it's probably easier for them to do it here than it is to ship them over probably some sort of import export type of deal there, but they're producing these things in such large numbers that it makes a lot of sense just to make it here. So this road that I'm on now is really beat up, and I just want you guys to see, and you'll probably see how stable the camera footage is going to be. I mean, this vehicle just soaks up the bumps. It really does. And I'm hitting everything, and not once has the steering wheel jarred out of my hand. It's totally staying straight. It's got good steering weight. I kind of know what the vehicle's doing at all times, and that's really what I'm trying to go over here. And we're hitting some really bad bumps. It rides like you're on a cloud. It really does. It's amazing how you could get, come from driving a sports car every day, and then you get into something like this and you just feel all the motions of how a luxury vehicle is, to absorb all the nonsense that we have to drive on up here. But now we're on a perfectly smooth highway, and this thing is so smooth, so comfortable. The steering is spot on. Yeah, I gotta say, guys, I'm really impressed at this vehicle. I'm impressed with the build quality, the driving dynamic, the cargo space, the options, and like I said, I think it's it's fairly priced, to be honest with you. And you would very rarely hear me say that about a Mercedes-Benz product. Everything today is so overinflated. But no, this is a good SUV. It's definitely something to put on your radar if you want to drive a Mercedes. And you're looking for an SUV, this is the one to get. So guys, I hope you liked the review of the 2018 GLE 350 Fanatic Mercedes SUV, and like I said, I'm impressed with it. I really am. I was driving it all morning. I ran back, grabbed my camera gear, so let me just shoot a review on this, because I was pretty impressed with it. It really was. And it takes a lot to impress me in a vehicle. And I'm not driving this like, sporty. I don't expect it to be. It's not a coupe. But if it was a coupe, I would expect some sportiness to it. And if you guys saw my E-Class coupe video, I mean, that thing totally was a disappointment. In every which way possible, especially the build quality. But look at this. This one's made in America, and it's not creaking and rattling and shaking itself apart. It has 4,500 miles, and that's 4,500 New York City miles, which is probably equivalent to about 30,000 Florida or Arizona or California miles. That's just because of what this New York City area does to a car and how it wears and breaks it all apart in a much shorter amount of time. So any questions, comments, post it below, and thanks again for watching this video. Got more car reviews coming, so stay tuned. autofanatic@yahoo.com. Take care.